Here we back with another video how to set up Flutter Rust bridge in Android. And this tutorial is the that series. The that part 3. If you haven't watched my part 1 video, go and watch, because in this tutorial I will mainly focus on Android part, and I will not show you how to set up the Rust native code in existing Flutter project, how to add the needed plugins and packages, and the configuration. So all the configuration and setup is in the part 1 video. So if you haven't watched that, go and watch and come back to this video. So let's get started. In Android, we need to build the dynamic build. In iOS, we need to build the static build, right? So but in Android, we need to use the dynamic build. That's why in our cargo.toml file, in here, cargo.toml file, in here we only declare create type just static lib, but we are now we will need the dynamic build for Android. That's why we are going to add. So we need to add cdylibs. So we tell Rust that we will build for the dynamic library also. So the next part is for buildings, we need to use the help of cargo ndk. So we will install that. To install that, we can run command call cargo install cargo ndk. So this will install cargo ndk package. So make sure you need to install the ndk from Android Studio. So go to your Android Studio and install the ndk SDK. It's very easy. So I will not show here. So I have already installed, so I will not do that. Okay, let's continue. So we got the cargo ndk. So if you already set up Flutter Rust bridge CodeGen into the machine, so you can check like this: Flutter Rust bridge CodeGen tested version. So if you haven't installed that, install that. If you don't know how to install, go and watch my part 1 video. So let's run the CodeGen and we will generate Dart related generated file, and then in here there are two files: bridge underscore generator.io.is, and the another is bridge generator.is file. So this file will be generated from the Flutter Rust bridge CodeGen. So I will run the CodeGen again. I will show you. So this is the command: Flutter Rust bridge CodeGen, and then the -r is for the input path of the function that we written in Rust. So it is inside the native SOC API.is. So the next part is the -t. It will be the output of the Dart related file. So it will be inside the lib folder. So -t lib and then slash bridge underscore GENERATED generated.dart file, and then the definition.dart file. So we need to do that: dart -decl -output. Okay, so this will be also inside the lib folder. So lib slash bridge generated.definitions.dart file. Okay, cool. So in here we don't need to generate the header file. The header file is only needed for iOS part. That's why we don't need to provide. So when we hit enter, it will generate bridge generator.this file and then this file. So if you already watched my part 1 video, you already know that. So let's build the dynamic library that we needed for Android. So how we can call: here's a command: cargo ndk, and then the -d. You need to pass the architecture here. So in Android, we need 4 architecture. So the first architecture is the ARM64-V8A, and the second one is the ARME API-V7A. The third one is the x86, and the last one is the x86_64. So these are the architecture that will needed by Android. So the output -O is the output path. So we will put all the generated dynamic library inside the Android. So we need to so in here we cannot call directly this one because we are not inside the native folder. We are building the native code into the dynamic library. That's why we need to go inside the native folder, because I don't have to explain that, because in here cargo terminal is inside the native folder. That's why. So let's clear this out and go to native folder, and then okay, -O // we will move to the project root and then go to the Android, and then main, I think it is app/soc main/, and then we need to create a folder called jnilib as lib folder, right? So and then we need to call build command, let's call it. So this will generate a dynamic library in Android. Yeah. So after it is finished, it will create a folder called jnilib in here. As you can see, SSC main jnilibs, and then in the respective architecture, and then the build. So the build name is lib rust_flutter_teach demo.so file. Yeah, .so is the dynamic library. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we generated GoGen, where we generate we generate a generated file from Flutter Rust Bridge GoGen, and with the help of Cargo NDK, we generate the dynamic library. So the next part is loading that library in our Flutter. So let's go to our main folder and let's load that. First, we need to declare our build name. So the build name is const, and we will give the name build name, and then the name would be, as you can see here, lib rust flutter teach demo.so. Yep. So we can load the build like this in Flutter with the help of FFmpeg package dynamic library.open. So this is how to load the dynamic library for Android. So build name. Yep. So in the bridge generator.dat file, there is an implementation factory class. A class name is Rust Flutter Teach Implementation. So this name is related with our cargo terminal name, because in here we give that name. That's why if you put something else, the name will be related with this one. Right now our cargo terminal name is Rust Flutter Teach Demo. That's why in here Rust Flutter Teach Demo Implementation. In here there is a factory class. It is accepting the external library. So external library is this one. So we can call find an API and then the Rust Flutter Teach Demo Implementation, and then we will pass the dy_lib folder, right? So yeah, this part is the loading the dynamic library in Android for Android in Flutter. Yep. So in here there is a basics a widget, center widget, text button. When we press the text button, we will get data from Rust and then show it in the Flutter side. Yeah. So string result, and then let's call the API. API is coming from here. API dot the name of the function name is the greeting from Rust, because if you go to the API.is, we declare it in here. So let's go to the greeting from Rust function. It is the return type of future, data type string and the future data type. Yeah, that's why we need to put await in here, and then in here we will put asyncs. So yeah, that's all, and then we will print this out in the console. Yep. So I will record a little bit. First, we generate a generated file for with the help of Flutter Raspberry Gogen, and then with the help of Cargo NDK, we generate the architecture build that is that are needed by Android. So we need it. We create a JNI lib folder inside the app SRC main, and then we do that like that. And then the next part is we load that build in the Flutter, and then we pass that and the external library into the Rust Flutter Teach demo implementation, and that is coming from the generated file. Yeah. So the last part is we call that function from by using api.greeting for Rust. It is the future. This one we put await and async, and we debug print that. So I will open up my Android emulator from here. So okay, so emulator is app, and then we need to go back to our project root. So make sure project root mean in our this our project root. If you enter all the folder, yeah, the folder name and the all the listed folder appear here. So that's why we go to the Flutter root, and then we will run Flutter run. So this will install the Android in our Android emulator, APK in our Android emulator. Yes. So if you haven't watched how to set up native Rust code, and then the related libraries, how to install the Flutter Rust bridge in machine, please watch my part 1 video and then come back to this one. Yep. So our application is running. So this is not my coming from my app. Yeah. So let's click the data from Rust, and yeah, we got a text called greeting from Rust. So it is coming from the api.rs function name here, greeting from Rust. The string return type is the string, and then the context is the greeting from Rust. That's why we got the result. So if you change something like hello from Rust, and yeah, so hello from Rust, but suppose if you hot restart the application and call it, it will not change because we need to rebuild the dynamic library again. So we will rebuild it in here. I will not type it. I will just search the first we need to go to the native folder, and then we will run the command. The command is this one, so it will regenerate it, the build, and then cd.dot, go to Flutter project root, and then run it again. So this time when we click me from data test pattern, it will show hello from Rust. Yeah. Okay, it's installing. Let's click, and here hello from Rust. Yeah. So thank you very much. And in next tutorial I will show you how to set up Flutter Rust bridge in macOS. Yep. Thank you.